Thank you, Chairman Barr. H.R. 3161, the CDFI Fund Transparency Act, is titled to reflect the purpose of the legislation. I'd like to thank Representative Pedersen for co-leading this piece of legislation. This bipartisan bill would require the Community Development Financial Institution, or CDFI, fund director to testify in front of this committee on an annual basis at the discretion of the chair. Currently, there is no requirement for the director to testify before Congress, which hinders our ability as a committee to conduct oversight and provide transparency on behalf of our constituents and the American people who utilize the CDFI Fund's services. The CDFI Fund provides economic opportunity in rural and disadvantaged communities across the country by providing financial assistance and information to their member institutions. That's exactly why it's necessary that Congress has oversight over the CDFI Fund and the ability to ensure that it is appropriately utilizing taxpayer dollars. With certified CDFIs in all 50 states, the District of Columbia, Guam, and Puerto Rico, I believe it is in the interest of my fellow members of Congress on both sides of the aisle to be able to engage in annual oversight of this vital program. When speaking with my constituents who depend on the CDFI Fund, I have heard countless stories of how the CDFI Fund decisions lack clear reasoning and their processes, frankly, are extremely confusing. In August of 2022, I, like all of my colleagues, was traveling across Tennessee, and I first experienced this when I visited Trust Federal Credit Union in Chattanooga, Tennessee, actually outside of my district, but I was there visiting and speaking to financial institutions. Their CEO explained how receiving recertification from the CDFI Fund has become an unnecessarily burdensome process, and for those around back in the late summer, fall of 2022, many of you experienced a similar problem as you saw CDFIs not being renewed in the normal course by the director and by that program. As they were working through the recertification process, the Treasury Department informed them that they had received a grant through the Emergency Capital Investment Program, or the ECIP program, in December of 2021. However, in June of 2022, the CDFI Fund stated that Trust FCU had issues with their recertification application and would not be certified until those were fixed, therefore holding up the ECIP funding that this financial institution had received. Trust FCU had already been certified once and had been a successful CDFI for 5 years at this point. Yet when they asked the CDFI Fund what those issues with their recertification was, there was not a single response back. It was not until August of 2022 that the CDFI Fund finally explained why their application was still pending. And frankly, I've heard that explanation, that information related to me, and it was an issue that frankly was beyond the control of this credit union to resolve. In the meantime, their ECIP funding was put on hold, and Trust Federal Credit Union had to take out a line of credit to close on the funds, costing the credit union a significant amount of money. And I'll just tell you as a little bit of background to this, those funds were going to allow the credit union to open a branch in a minority community of Chattanooga that was vastly underserved, was essentially a banking desert. And so that was being held up by this kind of nonsensical issue with respect to their recertification. When I heard this story, I could not believe how the CDFI Fund was treating its membership. I worked with Mr. Barr, who was already engaged on this issue, to reach out to the CDFI Fund and highlight the issues that I had heard about. However, we received similar responses from the ones that Trust Federal Credit Union had received. It is for this reason that I worked with Ms. Pedersen to launch this bill and bring oversight to the CDFI Fund. Thank you for, I think this is a good bill that will allow members across the spectrum to be able to find out what's happening at the CDFI Fund and make sure that it is accountable to the taxpayers and to Congress. And with that, I thank the chairman, and I yield back.